Well, hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to another edition of Court Call with Ronnie Nunn. Ronnie, we have some terrific plays that are going to force you to put your referee thinking cap on. Are you ready?
I'm ready to roll, Coach.
Let's kick it off with Morton wanting to know if the Dwyane Wade open court attack on the basket should have been a foul on Rubio, a travel, or an offensive foul on Wade.
It's a kind of a play where you see that Rubio doesn't really do too much laterally, and Wade, I think you used the term, Coach, at one point, guessing correctly. And actually, he guessed correctly, stood his ground, and it looks like, you know, it might be a travel, but it really isn't. He just runs over Rubio. I'm very happy with that decision. I'm glad he grabbed hold of that. That's a tough cluster kind of play, and I think that was the best decision.
Well, it's funny because, you know, Dwyane Wade is great at the Euro step, and I think the moral of the story here is you shouldn't try and do a Euro step on a Euro because Ricky Rubio knows that, and you can see he guessed right and got in his way. Not a lot of contact, but I think it's also good to point out that Dwyane Wade is one of the big stars of the NBA and doesn't always get those calls.
And I think the problem is that when a superstar looks like he got a call he didn't deserve, or he travels, a lot of our fans believe it's that way all the time when they don't realize how about all the other plays where the referee makes a mistake or not. They don't highlight that. It's always much more notable with a superstar. And yet in this case, an excellent call, but there's nothing in the box to demonstrate that here's a superstar that didn't get the call. And it's good to have a play like this on, but people need to see that.
In Milwaukee, O.J. Mayo went hard to the hole, and Avery Bradley tried to stop him. Everyone agrees that it's a foul, but Leaf wants to know why Mayo didn't get free throws.
Well, I think the official actually believed that this was an afterthought for a continuation. And as I'm running it, you know, there's a kind of a rhythm to the game of basketball. When he begins this drive, there's the block, and he kind of gathers the ball right on that block. He doesn't continue a dribble. So as long as he's on his way to the hoop, I would have preferred him to continue with that thinking of a continuation play instead of just wiping it because it wasn't a shooting motion play. There is a difference between a drive play and a shooting motion play. This is a drive to the hoop, and clearly he gathers himself to get into a shooting motion that's normal. Because there's been a lot of emphasis on not giving shooting shots when they're undeserving, I think this might have been a tweener for the official, and he has to recognize there's still an easier differentiation when you're having a drive to the hoop. Just see the play as it is, keep it simple, and go with a clear understanding.
DeMarcus Cousins had 2 consecutive plays where the 3-second rule came into play on both offense and defense, and Earl wants to know if they should have been called. Let's walk through how this could happen and how he was able to avoid a 3-second call on offense.
On offense, the same 3 seconds apply. That painted area, including the line that is extended for the pro game versus the college court game, is still 3 seconds. And what happens is DeMarcus goes in at around 4:14, 4:13, somewhere in there, and he finally clears at 4:09. I think the drive by the catch by Thornton, who gets that ball and passes it out, that should alert officials right then that there was a pass in the paint and then a supposed catch that was not caught, now a throw out, and now that's when officials should look at this play and see where the offensive players are, and the biggest one in there obviously was DeMarcus. Again, let me remind everybody that on offensive 3 seconds or defensive 3 seconds, it's not an actual count. It's a feel for the count of 3 because of the way the game unfolds itself. And I think technically a 3-second call could have been made easily against really DeMarcus Cousins on that play.
Well, let's move on to the defensive end here where they have a pick and roll, and then DeMarcus Cousins' man, I believe, cuts back to the weak side way by the 3-point line while Cousins is camped out in that lane. This is, again, we went over it last week. It's a little bit confusing. So, is this defensive 3 seconds or is he okay?
You know what? He's actually okay. And as we go through it, you'll see he starts out at the elbow and he's above, and he goes in at a time that's around 3:51. And as he goes in, he's backing off that pick and roll, and he's in there and he's suspect. And now it's up to 3:49, and that's 2 seconds. But guess what? the offensive player is doing a similar drive as Mayo did just a bit ago. He's on his way to the hoop, which all of a sudden really legalizes defensive players to come to him. So the fact that he was already there and now can attend to a driving player as a secondary defender, it made him legal. So at that point, that doesn't affect the lines to the side of the side of the lane line, those 3-foot posted up marks we were talking. This was strictly a paint play, and in the paint, he was safe because the player came to him.
Jodi Meeks got into a tough situation in the open court, and our old friend Pablo wants to know if there should have been a call instead of a turnover. Ronnie, was this the correct call?
You know, it was the correct call, and it was a super play by the official to see that. In the NBA, if you shoot a ball and are the first to touch it, it is a travel violation, even if the ball goes to the ground. In this case, the ball went, over the hoop or around the hoop, didn't touch the rim of the backboard, and he retrieved it. That's an automatic travel call and an excellent call by the official. I think what was interesting about this drive, in fairness to the defensive play of Valanciunas, is that he was retrieving to defend the play, and Meeks was seeking him out to make this contact. As a matter of fact, on a baseline view, you'll see that he raises his elbow almost to the neck of Valanciunas to really clear him. It could have been called an offensive foul because he really went at the defensive player illegally, but the play came out right and the right team ended up getting the ball. But I think officials and players have to be aware of how to seek out contact. And of course, the defenders are watching the defender, which was great here. He did nothing. And like they say, it all comes out even.
And there was 2 really great teaching moments as a coach here. One, nobody gets back on Toronto besides Valanciunas, which is a real big no-no because they would have been able to get in there and get that ball. And secondly, Meeks has to know that he doesn't need it. He shouldn't touch it, especially because his teammate Powell was right there to pick it up and dunk it. In our last clip, James Harden goes to the hoop and is fouled. Yet on the pass off, the Terrence Jones dunk is counted. Rodri is scratching his head, and so am I. Ronnie, give us, I cannot figure out how that happened on this play. Break us down and tell us what's going on and if it's right or not.
Well, the concept of the play is right, meaning that if some other things were really timed in a little better, this play can happen. You can have a pass off, a foul, and a continuation by another player, which is what happened here. And by the way, it was judged by the official that way. And in all fairness, this was the kind of play that your eyes have got to catch up with 2 plays at once. And the problem with this play really is, if you look at it a little bit more technically, and I think the officials could have done it because it involved a restricted area. And in the NBA, if you have a restricted area play that questions whether it's feet outside or feet inside, you can also determine whether the play is a block or a charge. So this play clearly was a defensive play. The player defensively moved laterally and to try to get into Harden. And when Harden passed it, the foul then occurs. The problem with the continuation is the offensive player, his teammate, didn't receive it. And he receives it secondarily. And so therefore, that play is really killed on the Harden defensive player contact. It should not have been continuation. I would have liked to have seen the guys come together and talk a little bit more about it. And if I'm correct, I believe they could have gone to the monitor because it was under the guideline or category of restricted area. And it certainly was close to the restricted area if you take a look at that.
Well, I think there's a lot of great learning things here going on, and it's important that players understand these rules and know how to use them so that they can be the most effective player on the court.
Well, knowledge is power, as they say. And in my officiating career and the little basketball and coaching I've done and played with playing the game, the officiating is really a unique part of that game. And the more the players know about the part of the game, the more they'll appreciate it. And the more they'll come up with ideas of how to beat it. I mean, not beat the rules, but beat the play or player.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, Ronnie. Another great show. Don't forget, sports fans, if you want us to go over a call that you think needs to be reviewed, make sure to tweet us using #CourtCall. Please give us the date, the teams, the time, and the quarter so we can keep this organized, and we'll get to it as soon as if we can. So thanks for joining us, everybody. And don't forget, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?
I'm in, Coach.